Absolutely, because politically also speaking, Mr. Piyush Goyal is the man of the moment. He is the one who's been giving out all of the explanations with regards to the latest the interim framework of the India-US deal that has now been announced. And in this era that is defined by tariffs, industrial subsidies and supply chain realignments, trade negotiations are complex and they are also consequential. So the India-US trade dialogue that has now demonstrated how intricate modern negotiations can be, balancing reciprocity and also sectoral sensitivities, digital rules and strategic alignments is what matters the most.
Absolutely, and India has taken care of all of these aspects very, very carefully in all the trading agreements that we have signed and we are looking forward to sign. In fact, every clause carries implications for domestic industry and long-term competitiveness. But at the same time, the European Union-India Trade Pact, which is often called as the mother of all deals, it carries enormous structural weight. Europe exports regulatory standards. It defines sustainability frameworks, compliance regimes and industrial benchmarks. In fact, Amita, India's trade posture must therefore balance ambition with autonomy.
Absolutely, because that is all what is about when we speak of autonomy access with resilience and growth with strategic foresight. So that seems to be the man of the moment that we have been waiting for as far as Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, Shri Piyush Goyal will be joining us here on stage very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what we talk about because the Parliament session, the first half of the budget session that has just ended today and it will be now resuming on the 9th of March. But politically also speaking, much has been happening around as far as the trade deal is now concerned. So let's join our hands together in welcoming the Minister himself who will be joining us here on stage because this is going to be a crucial time that when we speak about multiple of these trade deals, these FTAs that are now being signed with various countries as the geopolitical situation, Sumita, continues to change.
Absolutely, Amita. So the Minister is going to lay out his roadmap, his vision, especially when it comes to India's trade policy amidst these geopolitical disruptions. And like you stated, that he's the man of the moment. He's been the one who's behind the multitude of deals that India has signed, so whether it's related to EU, UK, New Zealand, Oman, and of course the very latest with the United States. In fact, we have signed a joint statement with the United States, and of course Minister Goyal told us just a couple of days back that we will be looking forward to signing the agreement, at least the interim framework, by March. So of course all eyes on a very special guest. This afternoon, Minister Piyush Goyal, we're just waiting for the Minister to arrive and give a keynote on what his strategy and what his vision has been as far as navigating India through these complex geopolitical times is concerned. He will be taking us through how India has maintained its stance on protecting its sensitive interests, how we've drawn firm red lines, not just for any one particular geography, but of course for the globe. And these red lines, ladies and gentlemen, they have been respected. And that really defines the success of our trade strategy. So that is something that we will be looking forward to. The Minister will be here anytime, ladies and gentlemen. But let me also ask you, you can go to our social media platforms, ET Now, Times Now, and tweet your thoughts, share the pictures that you've clicked here, and of course, any ideas that you have for ET Now Global Business Summit. All eyes now on the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Piyush Goyal, who's expected to arrive here any moment.
So it's going to be a packed room as we are expecting the Minister himself, Shri Piyush Goyal, the Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, and that is exactly what we talk about because trade policy, you cannot separate it when it comes to your national strategy. And putting the mark in focus, when we speak about Viksit Bharat 2047, well, that is the vision that is now being put across, economically speaking as well, top 5 economies of the world, and India now seems to be rising high. And paving way for that very vision to come true, well, this seems to be the vision that is now being talked about when we talk about all of these trade deals, how it is going to benefit India, how it is going to benefit multiple of these sectors, because there have been certain questions, doubts that have been raised on part of certain leaders there in the opposition who talk about a compromise. Well, that is not the case because the Minister himself has been giving clarifications, he's been giving statements in the house as well. And of course, this is going to be a one-off exclusive conversation that you will be watching here on the broadcast as he now lays down the framework of how trade policy cannot be separated from national strategy. So we are going to wait a little more while as far as in welcoming the Union Minister himself, Shri Piyush Goyal, and there's a reason why, Sumita, we call him the man of the moment.
Absolutely, Amita. He's called the man of the moment because, like I stated, that he has been steering India's interests in the midst of these geopolitical crises, in the midst of these geo-economic developments that we're seeing all across the globe. And ladies and gentlemen, these geopolitical shifts have not really impacted any one particular geography. They have impacted the whole world. But it is countries like India who have emerged successful or who are emerging successful. That's only because of not just our resilient economy, but our policy with respect to trade and exports. If you remember, Union Minister Chirag Paswan was also stating in the morning that India has signed a multitude of FTAs and our domestic interests have been protected completely, despite the misinformation or the disinformation that is doing the rounds around how our interests might be compromised, but all our interests have been protected. And this is something that Minister Piyush Goyal has reiterated also multiple times over the past couple of months, that we will protect our national interests, and there won't be any deal that will happen without protecting our national interests, without protecting those, and we will, of course, be bearing all of those in mind. Regardless of the geography, India wants to sign deals with developed countries, complementary economies, most importantly, that do not compete with India, but they complement India. There is reciprocity in trade agreements. This is something that he's not spoken just in India. He's also gone on the global stage and spoken about this very fact. And if you remember, Amita, Minister Piyush Goyal was one of the very few, members of states who essentially stated that trade disruption may be here, but nations need to stand up for their own rights. Nations need to stand up for reciprocity, because trading deals happen between two geographies. So, of course, interests of both geographies, they need to be protected, and trade deals cannot be one-sided. So, ladies and gentlemen, expect Minister Goyal to speak about all of those matters when he arrives here. We're just given to understand that he is almost on his way. He is almost reaching
the minister
venue.
is here, that I am told. We're just waiting for the people to be, seated in their respective seats so that the minister then can make his way inside the hall. But as I said, it is a packed house that what we are looking at, and everybody is now eagerly waiting to hear it from the man himself. Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, will be present here in just a moment.
Absolutely, and we'll have to listen to him to get his vision and his thoughts on striking trade deals, how a country can sign trade deals, ambitious trade deals with far-reaching ramifications. However, it's important for countries to protect their own interests, regardless of any bullying that might come from any geography. We must protect our interests. And Amita, in just the past couple of months, especially when we've seen these kind of geopolitical disruptions happen, geo-economic disruptions happen, India has also looked at diversification. In fact, Indian exporters have very, very successfully diversified. The ministry also planned out this diversification plan. Our exporters reached out to at least 50 geographies as far as
I believe everyone is seated, and we have taken a lot more of your time as well. So let's quickly get our hands together in welcoming Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, joining us live here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep the applause going as we welcome the Union Minister himself.
Lots to hear from the man of the moment, who's going to be speaking about India's trade policy. He's going to be giving his thoughts and his insights on what really is happening all across the globe, on how nations can protect their interests. He'll also be giving us insights into the next set of deals that India is looking to sign. We recently concluded a framework for an interim agreement with the United States. It was signed by both the sides. Of course, the White House fact sheet also came out. And now we will hear it from the man himself on how he made the deal happen while keeping India's interests in mind. The kind of convergences that India and the United States are going to see, especially after the signing of this deal, after this deal gets finalized. Both the countries were looking at finalizing the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement last year, but that has gotten a little pushed because India maintained very firm red lines on the sectors it wants to protect. That is the agri, dairy, GM crops. So we will be listening to a whole lot of that from the minister himself and what the next set of deals are going to be. We're given to understand that we are negotiating agreements with Chile, Canada, Israel and a Mercosur as well. These are some very, very ambitious agreements that India is going to be looking at. And of course, these are going to create job opportunities, expansion opportunities for businesses as well on both sides. And of course, job opportunities as well, like I stated. So, Amita, the minister is going to be here any moment
I'm told
now.
he's here already, so we're just eagerly waiting, and our eyes are there on the door, as far as our eyes are glued there at the door itself. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you require any, translation devices there, so please help yourself. The devices are present at the back of the hall itself, and they would be made available to you for the live interpretation as the minister will be joining us here on stage very, very shortly. Because this is a crucial time that what we are looking at, India now moving up as far as when it comes to the figures and the statistics are also concerned, Sumita, very, very promising. And the entire debate that has been also taking place in the parliament, putting across when it comes to India's needs, when it comes to India being a development nation, and as Sumita has been mentioning that India has now put its interests of the sensitive sectors, including when it comes to dairy and farmers, and that has now been kept at a crucial point because there is not going to be any compromise. And this is a vision that has now been set forth by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. And working on that very vision, we're looking at the government of India that now seems to be fulfilling on those very lines when it comes to signing of multiple FTAs that we have seen with multiple countries. And the much talked about is the interim framework that has now been designed across when it comes to Indian interest as well, that has now been kept as priority. And to spell out the details of the latest Indo-US trade deal, of course, when we talk about politics, well, that too has been happening a lot over this issue. Several questions have been raised, but keeping the clear perspective of the government side, Shri Piyush Goyal, the minister himself, he has been making those multiple rounds of negotiation and dialogues, and we've seen, Sumita, multiple dialogues and, discussions that have been taking place. And this is what we get in return as far as keeping the interests of multiple sectors across, how we are looking as a nation to thrive, to build, and to be emerging one of the top 5 economies of the world, where we are almost there, Sumita.
Absolutely, Amita. That is really the big question. And I do hope that the minister is going to ponder on that. He is going to reveal what really led to the finalization of this deal, given the immense amount of pressure that we've been under. In fact, many countries have gone through that pressure. Many countries have compromised, right? All right,
let's
ladies
invite
and
the
gentlemen.
minister on stage. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we also have been eagerly awaiting. Please welcome Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, joining us live here on stage. Please put your hands together in giving the minister a very, very warm welcome.
All right, a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the Union Minister of Commerce, Shri Piyush Goyal, who is here. In fact, he's now coming up on stage to give his vision on the kind of trade deals that India has signed with a diverse set of geographies. Keep the applause going. I request you for that. And the Honorable
Minister is here himself.
here.
Let's quickly give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The man of the moment, Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
Before we begin the session, may I request Mr. Vineet Jain, the MD of Times Group, to kindly facilitate the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, sir. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vineet Jain. Always a pleasure to be a part of the Global Business Summit. And over the years, I've seen this program evolve grow bigger, better, and truly reflect the changing times, reflect contemporary issues. And I don't think we could have found a more appropriate opportunity than today to discuss a subject as relevant to current times as the decade of disruption, century of change. My compliments to the Times Group for the wonderful work that they have been doing in holding the nation's interests at the forefront and bringing to fore different points of view to help us navigate change, to help us address the challenges of the times. The nation today is moving forward on a fast track. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has taken forward the Reform Express in mission mode. I think if you look at the last few months, from the time the budget of 2025 was presented with in July sometime when in February, 1st of February, when the income tax limit for individuals was raised to 12 lakh rupees and for salary earners to 12 lakh 75,000 rupees, where they pay no tax, thereby putting more money into the hands of families for expenditure, for savings, for investments. Right from that moment onwards, whether it's the reform of the GST taxation system, both in rates, in policies and procedures, simplification, whether it's the various foreign direct investment limits, the ability to invest for foreign and Indian investors, the labor reforms which have now taken final shape, the series of free trade agreements that we have entered into in the last few months. I would probably think 4 or 5 we're losing count. We did 5 in the last 6 or 7 months. We had New Zealand, we had UK, we had Oman, we had European Union, and we had the Indo-US interim trade agreement being finalized. All of this, in a way, reflects the nation's journey of progress. Bharat ki vikas yatra ka pratik hai. The way the government has taken upon itself to decriminalize laws, particularly for petty misdemeanors. We don't want people to be struggling through courts and legal processes, whether it's the simplification of the policies and procedures that are to be followed in day-to-day business or by the common man, reducing compliance burden, making life easier for the common man. With that mantra before us, this has been a journey of change to accept the challenges of tomorrow. And friends, I think India's global engagement today, from a position of strength, with self-confidence in our ability to compete, has been noted across the world. Never before did we ever see a time where India engaged with the developed world and got our terms. We finalized deals which were good for the country, for all sections of society. We have had path-breaking new initiatives. For instance, we never heard before the India-EFTA free trade agreement. And EFTA is our agreement with Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Iceland, the 4-nation bloc. We had never before heard of a free trade agreement in which nations were committing a legally binding commitment to invest in India $100 billion as foreign direct investment, not just a FPI investment, with a condition that if they do not invest that money in a defined time frame, India can claw back the concessions given under the free trade agreement. Now that's a first for the world. The world has never seen this before. But India was able to present itself as an economy. At that point of time, we were the 5th largest economy. Today, we are the 4th largest economy. Maybe a couple of years down the road, when I come to the Global Business Summit, we should be the 3rd largest global GDP. But we were able to tell them that, look, a free trade agreement is about the future. And India offers a future where our economy is going to go from $4 trillion to at least $30 trillion by 2047, when each one of our Indians would have a per capita income of roughly $20,000. That's the delta of opportunity that we place before our negotiating partner on the table. It's a very compulsive case when I tell them that with your growth rate, you will probably become from a $2 trillion economy a $4 trillion economy. At best, things go well, a $5 trillion economy. By which time we would have added 26 trillion to our economy. And we've got to bring balance in every agreement. We've got to make sure that when we enter into a free trade deal, it's fair, it's equitable. Both sides stand to gain, it's win-win. And therefore, at the EFTA negotiations, we were able to craft this new mechanism to balance the concessions being given. Of course, the concessions don't hurt us, because the kind of products that we get from the developed countries of Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland aren't going to hurt the Indian domestic manufacturing or farmers or anybody whatsoever. Their per capita income is upward of $1 lakh. Our per capita income is today $3,000. I dare say they cannot produce or provide us anything which we don't require at competitive prices to hurt our industry. There will, of course, be very high precision tools or machinery, areas where we do not have the capabilities as yet, which we will open the doors to them. And that's how a balanced agreement is made. But despite that, we got a $100 billion investment commitment. When we did the free trade deal with the United Kingdom, I was faced with the same dilemma. We are both $4 trillion economies. But come 2047, and by the way, in a free trade deal, you are crystal gazing into the future. You're trying to figure out what the future portends for both partners. And the same situation, I'm offering a $4 to $30 trillion growth at the minimum. On the other side, I'm not seeing that kind of a growth from 4 to probably at best 8, 9, $10 trillion. We were able to get a double contribution convention in exchange, by which our persons, Indians, who go and work for short term in the United Kingdom, who earlier would lose 25% of their salary, which went to the exchequer and we never got any benefit out of it, will now be paid in the Provident Fund account of the Indian in India and become his savings as he goes to serve in the United Kingdom for short-term employment or short-term provision of services. We were able to balance the agreement. And this has been the story. I can give you free trade agreement one after another, where India has been able to get the best and protect the interests of our farmers, our MSMEs, our fisher folk, our artisans, the handloom, handicraft sector, every section of society, while also ensuring that the largest stakeholder in India, and I dare say the largest stakeholder is 140 crore Indians, the consumer. The consumer has to get a fair deal. The consumer has to get high quality products at the best price. We have to ensure efficiency in our operations and adequate competition for the consumer to get a good deal. And that is the fine balance that we have been able to strike in 9 free trade agreements that have been finalized in the last 3.5 years under Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's guidance. All 9 of them are with countries, economies, which are far more developed than India. 37 countries are covered in these 9 agreements, all of which are developed economies. The 38th country is Mauritius, which doesn't compete with India on anything. Mauritius is a financial services center and has tourism as its economic base. So 38 countries covering nearly 2/3 of the global GDP have been brought under the ambit of our free trade agreements through these 9 agreements in the last 3.5 years, effectively opening up for India over 70% of global trade and global markets. That's the extent and expanse of India's engagement with the world, recognizing that the future is going to be a century of change. We have to be abreast with the changing times. We have to ensure opportunities for 140 crore Indians. We have to make sure there are enough jobs, there are enough opportunities for entrepreneurs, there's recognition of talent, of skill, and we have to make sure we also protect our sensitive sectors, sectors where we would have to be cognizant that we cannot open up, which may hurt the Indian economy. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, since 22, these 9 free trade agreements have ensured, for example, we never opened up dairy, the dairy sector. Very logical. And I'm able to explain it to all these countries in a very simple way. The Indian dairy is largely small farmers having 3 or 4 livestock, 5 livestock, for whom this is a supplementary income. Sustainable dairy farming is done by them to help them meet their own nutrition needs of the family or a little bit of extra income. There has never been another country other than India which has finalized a free trade agreement with Australia, with New Zealand, with UK, with the 27-nation European Union, with the 4-nation EFTA, or with the USA. Never before in history has a nation been able to do an FTA with these countries, keeping all of dairy out of the FTA, protecting our small dairy persons. Because when we finalize our free trade agreements, They are based on three principles: trust, transparency, and a time-bound certainty for our businesses. Free trade agreements are not just opening up trade or tariffs. It's providing certainty. It's providing predictability. It's providing stability in policy, which attracts more investment, which encourages businesses to come and make India their manufacturing base, which encourages us to look at value addition and therefore prepare ourselves for this century of change that we can see before our eyes. You may wonder, why am I focusing so much on these free trade agreements? Ladies and gentlemen, there has never been a country anywhere in the world which has become a developed nation remaining insulated from the global world or from global economies. We have to engage with the world if we wish to see India as a developed nation, if we wish to provide opportunities for 1.4 billion Indians, if we wish to ensure that we increase income levels of our farmers, of our fishermen, we add value to their produce, we bring investments into food processing, we bring investments into precision engineering, high quality manufacturing, modern day technologies into the country, ensure we engage with new age technologies like quantum computing, machine learning, bring artificial intelligence into play intelligently so that we provide newer and bigger opportunities for our young men and women whom we reskill, we retrain, prepare themselves to adopt new age technologies. And with that in mind, when we engage with the country, we are effectively opening doors for larger exports of goods and services, and we are opening doors to get into the country products of our need. For example, with the United States of America, we are hopeful to get more aeroplanes into the country, which would be good for our tourism, which would be good for our mobility, hopefully bring down the airfares for all of us to come for the next Global Business Summit, which would open up remote area connectivity into the country. Very easily I can see before my eyes just the aviation sector needing probably $100 billion of imports, Boeing planes, aircraft engines, spare parts in the next 5 years. Before my eyes, I can see our steel industry doubling its capacity from the current 140 million tons to possibly 300 million tons, thereby doubling our need for coking coal imports, which we need for our steel production. We already import about $17 billion of coking coal. We'll need nothing less than $30 billion of coking coal. There are currently two countries mainly which supply coking coal. Now I'd like you to reflect. Isn't more merrier for us? If there's more competition, if more countries come into play and provide us our needs, will that not give us better quality, better pricing? So we can bring coking coal into the country in a big way. Annually, we will need $30 billion of coking coal. We have just recently in the budget approved a policy to provide tax concessions for data centers. Right up to 2047, data centers being set up by foreign companies in India to provide cloud services, for the rest of the world. Now, friends, look at the holistic nature of thinking. These data centers will bring large volume of investment into the country. So we are attracting foreign exchange. These data centers will need a lot of infrastructure to house them, which will provide jobs, which will provide economic activity wherever the data centers are being set up. These data centers will need power and largely renewable energy. So it will give a big fillip to our nuclear energy program, and we plan to add 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy as a base load in our electricity transmission grid. It will give a fillip to solar energy, wind energy, battery storage, pump storage, green ammonia, green hydrogen. The entire renewable energy ecosystem will get a fillip. We'll need more investments in transmission lines. Data centers need uninterrupted power, so they need redundancy, high level of redundancy, further adding to investments. Think of the holistic nature of thinking of this government as we prepare ourselves for this century of change. And clearly, all of this comes out of the disruptions that one can see before our eyes. Huge forex investments, huge opportunity for jobs in creating the infrastructure, huge opportunity for investments in the energy sector, huge number of jobs created in the energy sector, the whole ecosystem. As these data centers come in, it will need an ecosystem around them, industrial parks, it will need hotels, and there will be more travel. And finally, every year they will provide their services internationally, earning us recurring source of foreign exchange earnings, providing those services, exporting those services around the world. And that is the way we are articulating and thinking about the future of India, providing opportunities for young men and women across the country, making sure we open new markets for new products, encourage new exporters to now look at the global markets, and effectively we are reducing the tariff disadvantage that we have on our exports in the developed world through tariff reductions, tariff concessions in the WTO, at the level of from the MFN WTO tariffs to now the preferred tariffs that we get, so that our exports become more competitive. We have just concluded two very large free trade agreements with two of the largest economic blocs, the EU bloc of 27 countries, and soon thereafter, probably a week after, the US trade deal. Together, they open up a market of nearly $55 to $60 trillion. And both these markets, EU with a per capita income of upward of $50,000, US with a per capita income of over $90,000. Does anybody in this room think that they can compete with India on any product that India is manufacturing or potentially will manufacture, or on any service that we will provide, or on any farm goods that we can export in the foreseeable future? But look at the huge opportunities it opens up. Let me take the textile sector as an example. Both these geographies are large importers of textiles. Huge amount of textiles, garments, and the entire textile value chain, man-made and cotton. For all these years we have been talking, why does the textile industry not export more? Why don't we provide more opportunities for our women, particularly, and for all Indians in the textile sector? The biggest impediment was high customs duties, import duties in these developed economies, because of which we could not compete with the Vietnam, which had an FTA and therefore zero duty, or with Bangladesh, which had the benefit of being a less developed country and therefore zero duty access for their textiles in these geographies. Now, with textiles opening up in Europe entirely at zero duty, and with the reduction in reciprocal tariffs from 50% to 18% for all, and we are now lower than any of our competitors, we suddenly become extremely competitive. We can look at capturing the large markets that were always our dream, our desire. In the textile sector alone, I can easily visualize doubling our exports and possibly see at least 7 or 8 million jobs being created only in the textile sector alone. And I can go on sector after sector. Leather goods, footwear, sportswear, our handlooms, handicrafts, our marine products, our farm products, fruits, vegetables, basmati rice, spices, all the masalas that we export, tea, coffee, honey, endless number of products which will now become competitive, for which we'll open up large markets. And today, when we engage with the world, we ensure that we respect their sensitivities and they respect our sensitivities. Therefore, when we did the United States agreement, it was very clear that we needed to protect our farmers. And therefore, all the main areas in which our farmers have high production or have helped us become self-sufficient, we were able to keep out of the free trade agreement. So whether it's rice, whether it's wheat, whether it's corn, whether it's soya meal, whether it's millets like jowar, bajra, ragi, all GM food products, since we don't allow GM into our country, but spices, potato, the list goes on and on. Soya meal, I think I mentioned corn. We have fully protected the interests of farmers in possibly 95% plus of the farm produce that our local farmers produce. And therefore, even in this era of change, we are able to maintain our sensitive interests and focus on areas which are of mutual benefit and will benefit both nations. Well, it's another matter that some people keep spreading falsehoods and try to disrupt what is good for the nation. Even just now I was seeing outside an opposition leader who has probably no concern for our country's well-being or the well-being of 140 crore Indians, our youth, our men and women, our farmers who will get so many more opportunities opening up for them, speaking falsehoods and spreading absolutely baseless allegations, trying to instigate the innocent farmers, our annadatas. And I feel so sad that national interest has no priority for some politicians. I mean, it's all right, you may be in opposition today, but we have been in opposition also. But when it came to areas of national interest, the whole nation would come together. The whole nation would celebrate what is good for the country. Sadly, that is not to be today. And as we prepare ourselves for this century of change, we will also have to change this kind of mindset, this kind of negative thinking that pulls our nation back. And in that, ladies and gentlemen, we will seek your support. We will seek your support against people who spread fake narratives, who try to provoke simple people, simple farmers. We will have to bring confidence in all stakeholders that we are all collectively working for a strong and prosperous future for India, which is the single-minded purpose with which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been working for the last 13 years in Gujarat and then 12 years at the center. 25 years of unblemished track record in the service of society, with compassion, with empathy towards the marginalized sections of society, towards the poor, towards our farmers, towards our fisher folk, putting the interests of these sections, of the farmers, of the fishermen, of the MSMEs, always at the forefront of change. And towards that end, I think it's a matter of pride for me personally and for the Modi government that we have been able to protect all the interests of farmers, keeping them paramount, keeping them uppermost in our trade negotiations, while ensuring that we also open up large market for our farm produce in the United States of America. So now when we sell tea or coffee or spices and many more products, the reciprocal tariff will be zero, providing huge opportunities for our farmers. And so many opportunities will open up for our labor-oriented, labor-intensive sectors, providing jobs, providing investments, providing economic activity, and helping us continue to be the fastest growing large economy. My sense is we've been the fastest growing economy for the last 4 years. We have at least another 2 decades or 2.5 decades more of continuing to be the fastest growing large economy on earth. And that is what awaits us. I'd like to share with you that today India is well poised with 2.3 million STEM graduates coming out of our colleges every year, with science and technology and mathematics and engineering being their core strength, that we have become a powerhouse in itself to engage with modern technology. It is no mean achievement that in the AI summit starting on Monday, we have the who's who of the AI world coming into India, because they recognize that without India in the value chain, it will be impossible to be able to expand AI at affordable prices to meet the growing needs of the world. We in India can help the world adopt AI. as our companies increasingly engage with these modern technologies, as we become the preferred source for applied artificial intelligence to be developed, as we develop our young men and women to become experts in new age technologies, you can just imagine the amount of opportunities that will open up for us. And mind you, artificial intelligence is not going to replace the human being. It is only going to change the nature of work that we are doing. And that is what the last decade of disruption has taught us. And that is what we have to be prepared for. That change is what we have to be prepared for in the coming decades. Very often people worry that artificial intelligence will cause job losses. I think it will mean reorienting the kind of jobs, but possibly create more job opportunities than we have today. Because no other country in the world has a young population like India, has the kind of talent and skill that young Indians have today. Most of the developed world has aging populations. When we talk of artificial intelligence, one must bear in mind, it'll need a lot of data crunching. It'll need a lot of applications being prepared for AI. India will be at the forefront of that. By the way, never entirely trust what you get out of artificial intelligence. So you may get a document out of your chat GPT or Perplexity, but I'm sure each one of you checks to make sure that it's not some junk or garbage that has come out of bots or corrupt data or, data which has been wrongly fed into the system. We've seen that in social media. We've seen the increasing use of bots, increasing use of the misuse of numbers or statistics. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. As the usage of AI expands, you will see databases getting corrupted, databases being filled with garbage or bot-based databases coming into play. Very often you'll find what output you get could actually mislead you, could actually take you down the wrong path. So you will need cyber security experts to protect your databases, new jobs, new type of jobs. You will need people to clean up the data every once in a while. You will need the human being to validate the output that comes out. So at no point of time do I suspect AI is going to replace the human being. The conclusive part of it will always be in our control, is always going to be in the control of all of you. And therefore I think India is well poised to adopt the most modern technologies, become agents of change to support the world in their foray with new technologies. India will be at the right sweet spot given these free trade agreements and increasing engagements we have with the developed world to meet their growing needs of human beings, of labor, of workers. Because ultimately, I think the nurse will still be a human being. The chef who provides us our delicious meals is still going to be a human being. The hospitality at the Taj Palace will continue to be a human being. The labor which works in our MSMEs, providing world-class quality, auto components, aircraft parts, aerospace and defense equipment, will continue using modern technology, but run by human beings. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time India came into the absolute cutting edge of technologies in our country. We engaged with the developed world confidently. We worked with our partners, our trusted partners across the world for greater benefit for all our stakeholders. And I have no doubt in my mind that our $30 trillion plus economy in 2047, powered by technology, powered by manufacturing, powered by our service sector skills, powered by India's traditional strengths, going across the world, serving the needs of the world, powered by economies of scale, meeting the needs of our own large population, as well as the large markets that we have now opened up through these free trade agreements, powered by complexity, but also innovation, powered by our talent, our skills, powered by brand India, which will reflect high quality, which will reflect the growing strengths of our manufacturing, of our products. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that India today has unlimited potential. Sky is the limit for us. Let us convert this market access into market share. Gone are the days when we had a 2-3% market share in the textile sector, in the leather sector, in our handloom and handicraft sector of global trade. Gone are the days when we were dependent on imported automobiles. Today, while we import some $900 million of automobiles, we export $9 billion of automobiles. Gone are the days when we were dependent on foreign countries to meet our food grain requirements. Today, we are self-sufficient in most of our food grain requirements. So much so that as we speak, we export nearly $55 billion worth of food products and fish products across the world, while our import bill is under $30 billion. That is the strength of India today. And in whatever we need to import, we are happy to encourage more competition so that, as I said earlier, our consumers get more choice, we get better quality, we get more competitive prices. And that is the calibrated opening that India has done in its international engagements. This is the market access that we are opening up around the world with very good, very fair and very advantageous agreements. And along with this, we are doing a very calibrated opening, protecting our sensitive sectors, protecting our fishermen, protecting our farmers, protecting our MSMEs, protecting our Vishwakarmas, protecting our GI tag products, our handlooms, our handicrafts, but yet opening the doors both for goods and services and mobility to serve the best interests of 140 crore Indians. As Prime Minister Modi said, India will no longer miss the bus. It will now lead from the front towards Viksit Bharat 2047. And I invite all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to be a part of this journey in the Amrit Kal as we move towards Viksit Bharat 2047, as we move towards a more prosperous future for our children, as we focus on inclusive and sustainable growth, as we work to provide opportunities for young men and women, for our startups, as we become job creators, not just job seekers, as we invite investments into the country in big measure, we will be the change that we always wanted to see. We will make that difference to our country that we always dreamed. We will aim big to meet the aspirations of 1.4 billion Indians, the aspirations for a better future, the aspirations for a better life, the aspirations that will meet the dreams of 140 crore Indians, reflecting a young, vibrant democracy, a democracy respected across the world, a leadership known for its vision, a leadership that is decisive, a leadership that leads from the front. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today, an international leader who the world looks up to you, who the country looks up to provide leadership in our journey as we move into the future, as we move into the century of change, changing with the times, yet protecting our traditions, our heritage, our culture. Vikas bhi, virasat bhi. That is our motto, and that is what I commend to all of you. Thank you very much.